So Genesis, you all read it this week, right? Yeah. Genesis is actually a fascinating book. It's fun to read if you can get through the gore and the horrible parts. Stories, wonderful stories. They move from the time of myth through to the edge of history, you know? And Joseph is kind of the end of that edge of history stories. After that, we start to be able to place people in time and connect them with events we have other sources for. But Joseph is still kind of out there on the edge. And Genesis is full of morality stories and creation stories and more. And Joseph is a great story. A little hard to read, but a fascinating story, and it's one that's meant to be told, to sit around the family or at the campfire and tell the story. Joseph is the son of Jacob and Rachel. And Jacob, remember, stole his brother's inheritance, Esau, and the conflict of those twins, another great story. Well, Jacob gets two wives. He goes and he wants to marry Rachel. He falls in love with the beautiful Rachel, but Rachel has an older sister, Leah, and so he marries Leah first and has 10 sons by Leah. But he loves Rachel more, and Jacob is his son, or Joseph is the son by Rachel, the beloved son, that great kid. You know, you all have the beloved son. I'm it. In my family, ask my brothers, they'll acknowledge I'm the good child. There's always one in the family. It seems that way. Now, my brothers aren't happy about this arrangement, but there's nothing they can do. I work for God. And Joseph is a dreamer. He has dreams, powerful dreams, and it's a wonderful gift he has. It gives him this connection with God. He hears God speaking to him through dreams. Problem is, he tells his brothers about his dreams, and they're not always all that good, how his brothers will bow down to him someday. Now, he's the younger brother. That's not a good idea to tell your brothers that. I learned the hard way. Didn't do that. He's proud. And his father gives him a beautiful robe with long sleeves, well made. We don't know if it had color to it or not. The Old Testament was all in black and white. The brothers get jealous. They get fed up with him. They don't know what to do with him. And Reuben, the oldest, he says, no, don't hurt him. We'll just throw him in a pit. We'll throw him in the well and figure out what to do with him later. So, you know, it starts out as kind of tormenting, and we'll sit around and eat lunch and listen to him scream, come on, dream now, you idiot. But Reuben, the sensible one, goes away, and the other brothers think, you know, we ought to do something with this punk. So a caravan is going by, and they sell him to them for a slave. They get 20 pieces of silver. Somewhere down the road, we'll get 30 pieces of silver for someone else, right? So they sell him to a caravan going to Egypt. And when Reuben, the responsible brother, comes back, they say, oh, yeah, well, they tear up the robe and they put goat's blood on it, and they take it to their father, so their father believes the child is dead now, and he weeps and can't be consoled. But he ends up in Egypt, sold to the captain of the Pharaoh's guard, Potiphar. And quickly, Joseph's skill and talent become recognized, and he becomes head of the household. And Potiphar has to do nothing. Nothing at all, it says. And Joseph handles everything, and he's truly blessed simply to have Joseph in his house. Well, sort of. Apparently, Joseph is a handsome guy, kind of David Hasselhoffish. And no, Amy doesn't think so. You want to give me another choice? Bono. Bono? Will that be better? Okay. So he's handsome in an English-Irish rocker kind of way. And Potiphar's wife becomes very attracted to him. And Joseph, being a good guy, says, no, I can't do that. You know, I'm slave of the master, and I'm supposed to. And she keeps hitting on him, and he keeps declining. Finally, she corners him when there's nobody in the house, and he can't do anything. She grabs a hold of his robe, and he runs away screaming. Ah. And she's left holding the robe. And servants come in when they hear all the clamor, and she covers up for herself as in, he tried to force himself on me. See, and when I screamed, the robe came off, I have it. The husband comes home. See, he tried to do this. And, wow, Joseph gets thrown in jail. And after some unpleasantness, gets thrown in jail and spends a fair amount of time in jail. While he's there, he meets two servants of Pharaoh, Pharaoh's butler and Pharaoh's baker, both been thrown in jail for displeasuring the Pharaoh. We don't know what they did, but they're in there. And they're very upset because they're used to living high off the hog, and now they're in the jail. The jail which Joseph runs because he's a man of God, and the captain of the jail says, you know, he's the smartest guy, let him run everything. And he goes off and puts his feet up. Joseph, wherever he goes, wins people over. So these two men have dreams, and they don't know how to interpret their dreams because we've already been told dreams are God talking to us. They don't know how to interpret them. Joseph says, well, tell me your dreams. I'll see if I can figure them out for you. So the butler has had a dream that he sees 3 branches from a vine, and they're full of grapes, and he squeezes the grapes into the cup and brings the grapes or the cup to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh drinks it, and that's good. And the butler says, well, I had a dream, and there were 3 baskets of bread. The baker, this is. I saw 3 baskets of bread, and the birds were eating the bread. Joseph says, well, this is easy. 3 days from now, you, the cupbearer, or the butler, the Pharaoh, will lift your head up and will bring you back into his good graces, and you will hand him his cup once again as you did before. You, the baker, on the other hand, not so good. It's 3 days, the 3 baskets, but your head will be lifted up. The Pharaoh's going to hang you, and birds are going to peck at your skin. One of those great Old Testament images. So 3 days later, sure enough, this is what happens. Pharaoh brings the butler back and reinstates him, hangs the baker, and leaves him out hanging there for the birds to eat his flesh. Joseph had told them that when you get taken back to Pharaoh, tell him about me because I'm sick of being in jail. Well, the cupbearer, the butler, he forgets all about Joseph because he's back in his good graces. 2 years go by. Joseph is still in jail. And finally, the Pharaoh has a dream. He has a couple of dreams, and no one can help him with them. One dream, there's 7 fat cows eating by the river, and then immediately following them come 7 scrawny cows who eat up the fat cows, and they disappear. And then there are 7 fat ears of corn, and then following that are 7 blighted ears of corn, which eat up the good corn, and there's nothing left. And no one can tell Pharaoh what this means. You have to wonder about their dream interpreters. The butler, he remembers, oh yeah, there was this guy in jail who told us our dream, and it's exactly what happened. Maybe we should go send for him. So they bring Joseph up to meet Pharaoh. It's great, they say they washed him and cleaned him up, made him presentable to go before Pharaoh. So he gets up there and he meets Pharaoh. And Joseph, he's kind of cocky for a guy just out of jail. Come on, Pharaoh, tell me what. I can tell you anything. And it's a beautiful image going before what was then the most powerful man in that portion of the world. So Pharaoh tells him the dream, 7 cows, 7 more cows, 7 ears of corn, 7 more ears of corn. Of course, it's Genesis in the Old Testament, so they take a lot of time to tell the story. And Joseph says, oh, that's easy. What's going to happen? 7 years of plenty, and Egypt's going to do great. And then 7 years of famine in which everything will be wiped out. And because you have had this dream twice, this is God telling you that this is going to happen soon, right away. And what you need to do is during those 7 years of plenty, you need to find someone wise and talented who can store up grain for you and prepare for the famine so that in the 7 years of famine, your people can be comfortable and live. And Pharaoh looks around and goes, do you know anybody who could do this job? I think I do, being Bono good-looking-ish. So, sure enough, there's 7 years of plenty, and in each of those years, Joseph takes a fifth of the grain and stores it all away in storehouses, and builds it all up and gets it ready to go. And then 7 years later, the famine hits, and they're doling out, and Joseph is handling everything. I mean, he's at the peak of his power now. He has Pharaoh's ring. He can do pretty much whatever he wants. And anyone who needs grain has to come to him. And people all around, this famine is hitting everyone in that part of the Mediterranean. So they're all in trouble, and they hear, well, Egypt has grain. And so people are going down there to buy grain from Pharaoh and from Joseph. Well, back home, the brothers have been getting along just fine without the annoying little brother up until now. The famine hits, and they're out, and they're all starving. And good old Jacob sends them. He says, go down to Egypt and buy grain for us so we won't starve. So 10 of the brothers. He keeps the other brother. Benjamin is the youngest and is also Joseph's brother by the same mother. He sends the other 10 brothers down to, I know, it's getting confusing, sends them down to Egypt to buy grain. They get there. Well, now Joseph looks like an Egyptian with his head shaved and all the rest of it. So they don't recognize him, plus they haven't seen him for a long, long time. But he recognizes them because they never changed. They didn't change their clothes, nothing. So he looks at him and goes, all right. Well, he's speaking to him through them to an interpreter so they don't know he can understand them when they talk in their own language. It's this beautiful part of the story and the interplay between the brothers and Joseph. I mean, they show up. Here he is, essentially a man, king in the country. He could do anything. They sold him into slavery. He could have him killed on the spot, you know? But he doesn't. He goes, so tell me about yourselves. You got a father? Yeah, we got a dad's home, back home. And we got one other brother back home, but dad wouldn't set him down here because he doesn't trust us with him. We don't know why. So he decides he's going to test them. He calls them spies. He says, you're all spies. Throws them in jail for 3 days. I like the 3 days image. Drags him out of jail after 3 days and goes, all right, tell you what you're going to do. You're going to leave one brother here with me, and he'll become my slave if you don't come back. When you're going to sell you your grain, and you're going to take it back to your father. But then to get this brother that you're leaving here back, you got to come back to me with your youngest brother, Benjamin. Now, after Joseph is gone, Benny becomes the favorite brother, as always. Where are you, Benny? So, oh man, Dad is not going to let us take this kid, but we'll give it a shot. Not only does he send them off with the grain, but then he puts all their money back in their grain sacks. So they get a couple days away and start looking around and realize, oh my God, the money's in here. We are in trouble. But they go home, they tell Dad the story, and Dad's like, no way, you are not taking my favorite other child, Ben, with you. It's not happening. Dad, we're going to starve to death. Let us go. Let us redeem the other brother. Remember him? He's still in Egypt. Finally, they convince Dad. They go down with Benny. They go down and they talk to Joseph again. They still don't recognize him. Joseph is impressed with him, but he sees the little brother and he has to leave the room. He's so upset. He goes and cries, comes back in. Says, okay, I'm going to sell you your grain. I'm going to send you home. But he puts the money back in the bags again. And this time he takes one of his silver drinking cups and put it in Benjamin's bag. Oh, what is he thinking? You know, he's going to test these brothers. He's going to find out about them. So he sends them off, and after they're gone for a day, he sends his guards chasing after him. The guards track him down and says, one of you guys stole the Pharaoh's assistant's drinking cup, and you guys are in so much trouble. And the brothers are like, we didn't do it. So they set the bags down, open them up, starting with the oldest, going to the youngest. See, nope. Benjamin has the cup. Oh, you guys are busted. Drags them all back into Joseph's presence. Says, I can't believe you'd come here and you'd steal from me, you guys, and I'm going to keep this boy. Well, the brother's like, no, because we can't go home to Dad without this one. We would be in so much trouble. You don't know. No, not. So one of the brothers, not Reuben, the other one, Judah, comes along and says, all right, You can let us take Benjamin home because our father will die if we don't bring Benjamin home. So let us bring Benjamin home. You can keep me, and I will be your slave. Do you like the juxtaposition there, how they sold him into slavery way back when to get rid of him? Now he's willing to be a slave to preserve the brother. Ooh, that's good. That's good. They weren't idiots way back then. That's good. Joseph breaks down. Just breaks down. He's tested his brothers, and they've learned from their mistake. They regret what they had done to him, and they're unwilling to do it to the other brother. And so they say, not going to happen. Take me instead of Benjamin. So he reveals himself to his brothers and weeps, and they're just stunned at this. They go back home and get all the rest of the clan and everything, and they go to meet Pharaoh, and it's great. They take Jacob up to meet Pharaoh, the old man, and he blesses Pharaoh. Some wandering sheep herder is coming in, and he's going to bless Pharaoh. They give him the land to live in, the best land you need. Bring your family, settle down, have a place. Have a place. It's a great story. It's a great story. Joseph calls to us from 1,000 years, thousands of years from the edge of history. Joseph's story is great. He's so very human. He struggles with things. He makes choices all the time. I mean, he gets these dreams, and he could shut up, or he could tell people about them. And he gets in trouble for telling about them, but it turns out to be true. His brothers do come and bow down before him. He could give in to the woman. He could have given in to Potiphar's wife. He got in the same trouble anyway, but he kept his standard. He didn't give in. He could have denied his gift. When those guys came to him and said, "Hey, we've had dreams. What do you think?" He said, "You should sleep more." But he doesn't. He tells them the stories, and he tells them one's going to live and one's going to die. His brothers came to him. He could have got revenge. He could have punished them for what they did to him all that time ago, but he doesn't. Joe chooses forgiveness. He chooses redemption and forgiveness. He can't take it anymore, the strain of that, to bring his family together, to see his father again. I'm reading this and studying this week, and I'm thinking the parallels for Lakewood United Methodist. You may have already seen the parallels in your personal lives. We go into times of turmoil. This church is going into a time of turmoil. Look, we're all sitting all together next to each other in this room. It's a time of chaos. And it's not easy. But what do we take from it? In this time of chaos in the life of our church, what do we take from it? Do we find innovation or do we hide? I think we go into a new land. We're going to have a new look when we get done, but we need more than a new look. We need a new attitude. We need dreams, connections to God. We need enthusiasm. Long time ago, this congregation said, we want to start a new church in a new place. Well, we're going to start a new church. It's just not going to be in a new place. We're going to do it here. October 2nd is when we're scheduled to be done with the sanctuary remodel, the first phase of the construction project, and they'll start working outside on the second phase. So we'll move back into the sanctuary October 2nd. And the staff and in Dallas, we were dreaming about what it might look like to be a new church in this place. And we decided we need a new schedule for worship. We need to do things different. So on October 2nd, what will happen is we'll have 10 o'clock worship service. It'll be the traditional worship service with the choir and all the energy and the presence we've known. And then we'll have classes, adult classes around that. We'll have nursery care. We always have nursery care, child care, those things. But then the second service will be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We're going to call it Go Forth. And it's going to be a different kind of worship, more than just contemporary worship. We want it to be experiential. We want you to connect with worship with each other in new ways. And so worship will be different in how we do it and what we do. There'll be active part of worship, as service part, as a component of worship. And whether it's making food for homeless people or preparing kits for the UMCOR team or a variety of different projects in art and prayer that will be a part of worship, an active part of worship that we will do. Dreams are a way to connect with God. I think this is a dream for our church, a way to connect not only with God, but with different people. After worship experience, we'll have time for classes for children, adults. We'll have dinner following that. So Sunday night, we'll sit down. And if you come to the 10 o'clock service, you can come back at 5 o'clock and eat dinner with us. We'll be a community in a different way than we have been. Now, do we have all the details worked out? No. Will we have all the details worked out on October 2nd? No. Will we have them worked out by January 1st? We're trying something new here. And it's going to take your input and your patience. We go into a time of chaos, and chaos is a little scary. Okay, it's really scary. But it's exciting too. Innovation. Working it out together. Trusting God. Like Joseph did so long ago. He trusted God. And we'll have choices. And sometimes we'll make the wrong ones and we'll back up and start over again. But we'll offer a new way to God for people not who are in here, but for people who are out there. A new way to God for people who are struggling to find meaning and hope and connection in their life. Joseph's story is one of reconciliation. We offer that same reconciliation down through the centuries from the very edge of history, bringing people back into reconciliation with God, reconciliation with their families, reconciliation with strangers and others, reconciliation with yourself. We're going to rediscover our purpose and our calling here at Lakewood. Joseph brings his family into Egypt, and they start a new way of life there. It goes well for a while. 400 years on, the story picks up again, and what were once guests are now slaves, but they're also a great and fearful nation. What will happen to them? We'll talk about that next week with Moses. What will happen to us? I doubt we will become slaves. 400 years from now, I can't say for sure. But we will go forth in excitement, and it will be a challenge. Will you pray with me? Gracious God, as this congregation moves out into the world, looks in at itself, let your spirit, your presence, and your wisdom be with us so that, like Joseph so long ago, we might be a source of reconciliation and connection for all the people who seek to be in your presence. In the name of the living Christ, amen.